She disappeared in the spring of 2002, and there were no missing persons reports, there was no news coverage, and nobody was looking for her. She was a young adult mother in her 20s, and her name was Michelle Knight. Finally, after decades in darkness, her life is reclaimed in this memoir of the Cleveland kidnappings. Now, she was writing it with co-author Michelle Buford, and this is her life before and during and after the kidnappings, which she was held prisoner by a very sick and disgusting human being, monster named Ariel Castro. Now, Michelle Knight's story was never a fairy tale. When she was a young girl, her parents would move from place to place quite frequently. She'd even be pulled out of school to watch her brothers and sisters for her mother. Now, her life took a toll when another man came to live in their family's home, because many relatives just lived together in the same house. He started raping and molesting her when she was about a young girl. She was only 5 when he would force himself on her, and he said that if she told anybody that he'd kill her and he'd kill her family. And he was a family member, an uncle, but she doesn't name him, so we don't really know the details of that. So yeah, we're just gonna go on about it. So what happens is Michelle continues to grow up, and when she enters her teens, she runs away from home after all the abuse. And she lives under a bridge, and a church kind of takes her in and gives her breakfast and dinner, and they serve it at a certain time, and she would show up to the church from her garbage can, home that she lived in. She lived in a trash can under a bridge. And she'd eat at the church until a man about 6'7", his name was Roderick, and he asked her if she wanted to come with him, and he had some food and some stuff he could give her, some clothing, and a place to stay. He said he just wanted her to be one of his drug runners. There was another man there. He was a drug runner with Roderick, and she asked him what was it going to be like, and he said it won't be anything bad. And her name was Capola, which was a nickname given to her, which means shorty. And it really suited her because she was only 5 foot or so. And then it was a great life. It was the best years of her life until the police busted Roderick. And Michelle and Roderick were running to the alley when her father drove by and found her after a few months had passed by of her missing. He told her to get in the car. Roderick ran away, and she never saw either of those men again. And her life was a living hell until a man in her high school, a young boy, a teenager, told her he liked her, and they hung out and they joked every day, and she had the best time of her life until she found out through his girlfriend calling her on the phone and telling her that he's her boyfriend and that he'd been lying to her. And then she found out through other people at school that he was just telling people that he had sex with Michelle Knight, that she was just a sex friend, and that he just hooked up with her and that's it, there's nothing to it. And she also found out that she was pregnant, which was a great thing because the man molesting her had stopped raping her, and that, she had to drop out of school because she didn't really want to go to school anymore either, and since she had 80s clothes and didn't really get to brush her teeth or wash herself, she always stank, and nobody really would notice if she dropped out of school. So as a young mom, she moved in with her mother for a period of time. Moved back in with her mother because she was living with a friend's family. And one day Joey and her were playing, and her mother's boyfriend got angry, and he decided to take it out on her little boy. And Joey's leg got twisted really badly. The custody of her son. She went to a family dollar store, and Ariel Castro was in there. She asked if anybody knew where this address was because she didn't really know. As she said, she was held back in school quite a lot, and so she didn't know many things. She always got lost and confused because her mom wanted to make sure she was dumb as a stump. So he's like, oh yeah, I think I know where that is. I think it's in downtown. I could take you there. And so she agrees because He's the father of her friend Emily, and so she agrees to go with him in the car, and then he traps her in the house by tempting her with a puppy that he said she could give to her son. And then after, for a few weeks, he didn't touch her or anything. He just kind of masturbated on her and in her hair. She had really long hair back then. And finally, he did start to rape her, and then a year into it, he kidnapped another girl and said once he got another girl, he would let her go. Michelle was completely against it, and he kidnapped Amanda Berry, and then after he kidnapped Amanda Berry, a few months into it, he kidnaps Gina De Jesus, kidnapped Amanda from her job at Burger King. She said he'd give her a ride home. He kidnapped Gina when she was walking home from school, and pretty much it would be 11 years. 10 for Amanda and Gina, 11 for Michelle. This house, Ariel would rape and beat Michelle more and also force her to miscarry by either stomping on her stomach. And then he would even, in the book, he said, "Don't you wish that baby was alive?" When she would look at the dead fetus of the baby that was inside her, he would impregnate her and just forcibly remove the baby out of her stomach by beating it out of her. Now, as years passed, Amanda got pregnant with Jocelyn Jade Berry Castro, because Ariel's the father. Amanda's delivery was very troublesome. They had this huge metal pool, like the type of summer pools you have, and Amanda was giving birth, and Michelle was doing the birth. He forced her to do it, and Amanda was pushing at the wrong time. The baby came out dead, and then Michelle did compressions and brought the baby back to life, because Ariel said if she didn't, he'd kill her. He hated her the most because she called him dude. She never acknowledged him, and she hated him quite openly, while the other two girls tried to win his favor a little bit more. And then another year into it, he started saying Amanda was his wife, and because he had a thing for blonde girls like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. And also he had an obsession with keeping up with the Kardashians, and he really just wanted to rape Kim Kardashian in the butt. That is actually what he said one night when they were watching the episodes. And Jocelyn was getting older. She was about 5 years old, and when she started getting older, he unchained the girls, but he would still lock the doors, and windows were boarded up, so they really couldn't escape. And throughout these years, they kind of became like a small family. Amanda still hated him, Gina still hated him, Michelle still loathed him, and they just kind of grew into a small contingency family unit. Finally, one day, Jocelyn ran up to her mother and said that, Daddy went to Grandma's house and the door was open, and Amanda took this shot and banged on the door and said, "Help, help, 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 can anybody help me get out of here?" And a couple of neighbors noticed, and a guy in the street came up to the door, and she's like, "I can't get out, he has the door locked." And the man kind of kicked open the door, and she ran into his arms and went across the street to call the police. Amanda and Gina were still upstairs, unaware of what was going on downstairs. They thought they were getting robbed, so they hid. When the police came, until she saw the badge on one of the policemen's hips and attached herself to a female cop, Michelle latched herself on there and said, "Never let me go." And they took them out of the house, and they found them. They reported the girls that they found, and they arrested Ariel, and as you know, the rest is history. Michelle really didn't go home. She saw her brothers Eddie and Freddie. They were all grown up, and she went into a women's shelter for a long period of time until she met Dr.Phil, and she got enough funding to buy her own apartment from the Dr.Phil Foundation, and she got to meet Celine Dion. And she wrote this book about her time there, and you'll realize a lot more about Ariel Castro and what was it like being the victim of rape and kidnapping, and how he would condition these women by beating them anytime they tried to escape. When he would leave windows or doors open purposefully so they would leave, and then he would beat them up and drag them back inside the house. Now, the neighbors claim to have not known or seen anything. But honestly, I think that's just stupid. I just don't think they cared. They really don't. People don't meddle in other people's lives because they just don't care. And Amanda and Gina are now in their mid-20s. Michelle was in her early 30s when they found them. So now she is living on her own. She saw a picture of her little boy Joey with his hair, with his like red hair, and that he looked a lot like her. And he's been adopted, and she doesn't want to ruin his life by telling him she's his mom. So she's keeping that secret for now. And you get to know a lot more about who she is as a person and how strong she is, and how her life story is more harrowing than any tales you've ever heard before. This book is moving beyond words. You really want this woman to have a happy ending, and I pray that she does. She deserves it more than anyone to have a happy ending. She's an amazing person who survived a lot of trauma in her early childhood to her mid-teens to her adulthood. And I mean, she still doesn't have custody of Joey because she's just keeping back her distance so he can be happy with her adoptive family. And Ariel Castro, through his forced miscarriages with Michelle, ruined her internal organs so she can't have any more kids, so she just watches Joey from afar with pictures and such. Hopefully one day she'll have a relationship with him and have a very, very happy ending, because right now her story is still going on, and I just wish her the best. And inside the book you can also see her in the early years. You can see her in kindergarten, in the 5th grade, in the 1st grade, 5th grade, junior high, and freshman year in high school. You can see her life, and she also has pictures of Ariel Castro's House of Horrors before it was torn down. That was a house she lived at, that was the bridge she lived under, and that's Castro's house. Right there. And then there's the motorcycle helmet he made them wear, and the wig, and the basement that he tied the girls up under and onto the pole. The pink room where her and Gina were chained together, and the chains that ran through the walls. And then Christmas cards and letters to her little boy Joey. The kitchen, and this is Amanda's room, and this was the bathroom. And this was the way to get into the basement. This was alarms he had rigged up, and this is her facing him in court. Her with the pastor, Pastor Angel Ariel from when she was a runaway teen. Dr.Phil, and her lawyer Peggy, and her new friend Trisha. She also describes what her son looks like. He sounds like a very adorable little ginger-haired boy. Then she's with an actor on Broadway for the show Kinky that she saw. And then that's her getting ready to go to college for a chef, and she's excited to start her new life. So I recommend reading this book and buying this book, and this is an amazing story of a woman who survived a lot, and I give this book a 10 out of 10. I hope you pick up Finding Me by Michelle Knight. Bye guys!